Again in grade 6, section 2.6, teacher's prompt. In many ways, dating relationships can be similar to other relationships, such as those with friends or families. So, very clearly, they're equating dating to family relationships. Dating relationships can be similar to other relationships, such as those with friends or family. So destroying the innocence of childhood, as we read in the book, is clearly manifested in this statement. So you're putting dating relationships with 11 or 12-year-olds equal to family relationships and friendships. This is what the curriculum is discussing. I would like to know how the teacher explained this in class. How would the teacher tell an 11-year-old that dating is fine, and it's as normal, and it's as good, and it's as comfortable, and it's when you say it's exactly like family relationships, that means go ahead, trust it. It's trustworthy. Although we know the problems that we have from relationships amongst this age group, even amongst adults, relationships outside of marriages are irresponsible, and they're usually abusive to women. And here you're telling children, dating relationship is like a family relationship. So trust it and go ahead, explore it. Don't worry. It's like dealing with your brothers, with your siblings, with your sisters, with your mother and father. This is what the curriculum is doing. In grade 6, when it addresses consultation, teacher's prompt, what should you consider when making a decision regarding relationship? What should you consider when making a decision regarding a relationship? Students, my comfort level, my personal and my family values, my personal limits, and the limits and the comfort of others are some of the things I should consider. And then it goes on to say, talk about how you feel with someone you trust. So, the first step in making that decision is what's your comfort level. So if you're comfortable, go ahead, make the decision. And then it says, talk about how you feel with someone you trust. Who's this someone you trust? Why doesn't it say your parents? Why doesn't it clearly guide children to go back to their parents when it comes to any topic or issue related to relationships? Why doesn't it say that clearly? It keeps putting the decision in the hands of children. Talk to someone you trust. The someone who they trust could be, anybody at school who's also a child and incapable of making such decisions. And we heard about the abuse, we heard about the pregnancies, we heard about all the problems that many girls go through because of the overexposure. And now, the curriculum that was supposed to protect, as claimed by Kathleen Wynne, it came to protect children, is telling children, go ahead and consult your friends that you trust. It didn't say friends, but it will imply friends. And it would tell the children, act upon it based on your comfort level. This is how you're going to protect children. Instead of telling them, go back to your parents, don't make any decisions unless you talk to your parents. It doesn't say that, unfortunately. In grade 7, age 13, they talk about sexual behaviors that are proved scientifically to be extremely dangerous. And here, on page 196, teacher's prompt, engaging in sexual activities such like oral sex, vaginal intercourse, and anal intercourse means that you can be infected with an STI. So they do say that it's a possibility that you can be infected with sexual transmitted infections. If you don't have sex, you do not need to worry about getting an STI. By the way, statistics show that young people who delay the first intercourse are more likely to use protections when they choose to be sexually active. They're saying, but by the way, if you decide to do it, go ahead and use a protection. If a person is thinking of having sex, what can they do to protect themselves? Look how they ended the statement. They said first there are diseases, but then they said if you want to do it, use protection. Or some people, if they want to do it, they will use protection. What kind of protection? So we moved from the risk, which is exactly what Dr. Grossman said. We don't address the risks. The risks that are proven scientifically. For example, in this study, one of the studies that we have here, they say prevalence of oral HPV infection was 30% versus 82% for anal infection. So these kinds of sexual activities that they talk about, they have higher risks of infections, HPV infections. In another HIV transmission risk, in another document by the Division of HIV/AIDS Prevention for CDC, National Center for HIV/AIDS, it says that anal intercourse is 17.25 times there's higher risk than vaginal intercourse in getting HIV. So anal intercourse is 1,725% higher in risk to cause HIV/AIDS than the vaginal intercourse. So this is what science is saying. So now we're deviating from all the risks that are proven. Even when they talk about masturbation in grade 6, they never talked about the dangers associated with that act, although there are many proofs, scientific proofs, that this is a very addictive act and it could have serious implications and effects on the children's bodies, on their joints, even on their vision. But nobody talks about those risks. And then they say use protection. Dr. Grossman said it clearly, even with using protection, the risk is extremely high. But the curriculum in nowhere talks about the risks associated with the sexual behaviors, that they're saying they're normal and some people practice them and they're pleasurable, as described in Teacher's Prompt, grade 7. They say having sex can be an enjoyable experience and can be an important part of a close relationship when you are older. So we started in grade 1 by talking about the body parts and the actual names. Then we moved to grade 3 where we talk about consent and negotiating sexual relationships. Then we start introducing relationships as romantic relationships in grade 4. Then move to grade 6, normalizing dating relationships to equate it to family relationships and making it normal, and talking about sexual activities and talking about how pleasurable and normal they are. And now we're talking about extreme sexual behaviors that are known to be extremely harmful to students in grade 7. And then we don't tell them don't do them. We don't show them the risk. We tell them some people will do them with protection. So what kind of protection would you want to use? And then we move on and saying having sex can be an enjoyable experience. We cap it all up and put the cherry on top of the ice cream and say it can be an enjoyable experience and can be important part of your relationship. So it's important to have relationship. It's like family relationship and you have to have sex. Or it's enjoyable and it's a good part of the relationship to have sex. When you are older, what does older mean? 12-year-old student is older when they're 13. And they're even more older when they're 14. So if this does not get interpreted as invitation, if this does not get interpreted as making it look wanted and pleasurable and good to have, how else would you interpret this? Grade 8, now we're beyond having sexual relationship. We talk about make a personal plan about your sexual activities. So it's walking the kids from grade 1 to grade 8, not telling them the risks, not telling them you're not supposed to make decisions because you're not developed enough to make such decisions, not telling them go back to your parents, how to do it, and now how to plan it. Teacher's Prompt, page 215 and 216, it says, how would thinking about your personal limits and making a personal plan influence decisions you may choose to make about sexual activities. And students would answer, part of the answer, I would be able to approach a situation with more confidence and stick to what I had planned. The student will answer, thinking in advance about what I value and what my personal limits are would help me to respond and make decisions which they're not supposed to make for the millionth time, according to science, that I felt comfortable with in different situations. I would be able to approach a situation with more confidence and stick to what I had planned. Another teacher prompt on page 216, why is it important to get information from a credible source before making a decision about being sexually active? Who's the credible source? Why don't we say parents? Why don't we say family? Why don't we say religion? Credible source. Because some people would say, well, some kids don't have parents, or their parents are incapable of giving them credible source, or some people don't have religion, or don't have values, or whatever. So why don't we give the options? Why do we leave it open? This is the question. The students will answer, teens who consult a health professional before being sexually active are more likely to use protection, such as condoms. And then, section C 1.5, page 196 says, identify ways of preventing STIs, including HIV or unintended pregnancy, such as delaying first intercourse and other sexual activities until a person is older, open, and using condoms consistently. If and when a person becomes sexually active. The students also discuss people who think they will be having sex sometime soon should keep condoms with them so they will have it when they need it. They will have it when they need it. This is how you plan it. Another outrageous point that I'm going to end with, section C 3.3, in grade 8, teacher's prompt, there are pros and cons to being in a relationship. And when you are in a relationship, there are positive things and drawbacks associated with different levels of intimacy. Intimate behavior can include, look at the description, intimate behaviors can include holding hands, hugging, kissing, touching bodies and genitals and genitals, and engaging in sexual intercourse. So you don't have to go the full 9 yard. It's okay if you start with the smaller things. Neglecting the fact that anybody that starts with the smaller things will end up in the bigger activities. So you're not just telling them don't do it because there are pros and cons. It's okay, you can start with the smaller things. This is how it's read. You're putting them on the path to disaster and the path to harm. Students, if one partner chooses to abstain from a sexual activity, for example, a person might want to kiss but not want to have a genital contact. The other partner needs to respect that decision. So instead of telling students the decision should be do not engage. Period. Do not engage. It's harmful. Science proves that it's harmful. No. Respect the decision if I want to do a lesser activity and if someone doesn't want to do the bigger activity. This is how sexual education is being taught in our schools. This is what I would really wonder, and I would really want to see how these things will be discussed in classrooms. And would discussing this with teachers prevent students from exploring? Statistics say no. It will encourage them to explore because now it's coming from a trusted authority. Because now it's systematic. Because now it's approved by the school to go ahead and explore these things. This is what's in the curriculum, my dear brothers and sisters. We've read the curriculum and we've just heard it. We encourage you to go to the references and read those points. And evaluate for yourself if the problematic point we mentioned do exist in such presentation, or are we just making things up? We want to protect our kids, and it's easily done if the curriculum is presenting the idea in a proper way.